Good evening and welcome to Daily Politics and Trust TV, your go-to destination for everything politics, policy and governance. I am Musa Salmanu. Tonight, the death of Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja has sent shockwaves across Nigeria's security architecture, with President Bola Tinubu directing that flags should fly at half-mast within 1 week of national mourning, just as he announced the postponement of the Federal Executive Council fake meeting in honor of the late Army Chief. The nation's police chief, Inspector General Kade Bitokun, has also ordered officers and men of the force to wear black wristbands for 1 week as a mark of respect for the soul of the late Chief of Army Staff, whom he described as a dedicated officer committed to securing the country. Though President Bola Tinubu has since appointed Major General Lufemi Oluide as acting Chief of Army Staff and subsequently elevated him to the rank of Lieutenant General, concerns remain on growing number of national officers dying while in active service, and what becomes of their transformative initiatives, just as circumstances leading to the chopper crash that led to the death of the 21st COAS, led General Ibrahim Tahiru, is yet to be made public. To help us navigate through the issues, we have in the studio Wing Commander Musa Salmanu PhD, retired. He is also a security and development expert. He will help us navigate through the issues. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, viewers.
We also have joining us for the conversation tonight Honorable Ikenna Azomchine, the National and International Affairs Analyst. He will be joining us virtually from Enugu. Now, to set the stage for the conversation, here is a report.
Every lawbreaker must be apprehended, and anyone that is found in possession of arms must be brought down. Is that clear? Yes,
sir! Badaru recalled that Lieutenant General Lagbaja was a gallant officer and a warrior who served in so many theaters and performed credibly at service. The minister prayed for the repose of Lagbaja's soul.
Really very sad. It's really tragic. So I want to use this opportunity to condole Mr. President over this heavy loss, indeed his family and the entire Nigeria. It's a great loss for our country. It's a gallant officer, very hardworking, and has been in all the theaters of war, and he has done commendably well for this country. It's a very, very, very big loss.
Also, the Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawale, who lauded the departed Army Chief's service to the nation, described Lieutenant General Lagbaja as a great loss and condoled with his family and the nation.
We enjoy working with him because, as the Honorable Minister said, he's a gallant officer and it's a great loss to this nation. And all we can say is to God to bless the family, and we assure Nigerians that we'll continue praying for the demise of Lagbaja, and we sending our condolences to the family of the deceased and Mr. President, because it's a great loss to this nation.
On his part, the acting Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluide, expressed regret following the death of Lagbaja, whom he described as a fine, committed and gallant officer who dedicated his life to the service of the nation.
It's something highly regrettable, and the country as a whole, under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu, did the very best for him to be alive with us today. But as we all know, we all belong to God, and it takes, as that when it feels necessary for him to do so. So it's on a very somber note that I'm talking this moment.
President Bola Tinubu had on Wednesday rescheduled the Federal Executive Council meeting to a yet-to-be-announced date in honor of the late Army Chief. After announcing the postponement at the Council chamber, Vice President Kashim Shettima led other Council members in observing a minute's silence in honor of...
Quite sad. We've had that, the level of encomiums been showered on the late COAS about his dedication to service and commitment to nation building. Okay, I understand we also have Honorable Azam Chine. Okay, Azam Chine, are you there? Thank you for joining. All right, good to have you. Okay, let's start with you. As a retired, officer, how do you receive the death of the COAS, former COAS?
Well, first of all, my condolences to the immediate family, the nation, and all of us that have been in this very noble profession of serving our nation, and knowing from the onset that you're here today, tomorrow anything could happen, and knowing that we're all humans, as sad as it is, you know that someday everyone that is there will someday die. So it's with a heavy heart, but at the same time, when you look at the fact that this is someone that has grown to the pinnacle of his chosen profession, and had the opportunity at every stage or at every level to impact on lives, you say that it's a short, you call it short, but very impactful life that he's lived.
Right. Okay. You talked about life and the transient nature of life. I also in that video how energetic he was, leading from the front, as he used to say. Sometimes he came down to the level of the officers at the front line, joining them even in the push-ups and all of that. Some say this is what is expected of a leader. What do you make up with his, the way he handled the affairs of his office, especially in spite of the fact that he has reached that pinnacle, as you said?
So the truth is that he came into command at a time that was very difficult, a very difficult moment. There has been a lot of, with the help, with assistance of people like him in the theater command and so on, right from GOC to where, up to when he came here, people that have been involved in the fight, so to say. They were there supporting then the Chief of Army Staff then, before he became the chief. So he's someone that has been in the theater. He has been there with men. And as an infantry officer, the infantry, the type of fight that we have today, with due respect to all other services or other even corps within the army, it's a fight that is really infantry driven. The infantryman is the person that gets in contact with the enemy, close quarter combat, and so on and so forth. When you have insurgency with the level of our technology and so on, the infantryman is that point man that gets to the heart of it. He gets experience the heat because there's a limit to which you can do aerial bombardment. The enemy is embedded within civilian population, and therefore
what do you call asymmetric warfare?
Exactly. To avoid collateral damage, you have to use man-to-man, if we put it that way, and that is where the infantryman comes in. And so this is someone that have led in operations right from internal security, but up to these operations that counterinsurgency and so on. So it reflects, when he got to Chief of Army Staff, it just reflected the man that has been involved with the with the soldier, with the everyday soldier, sleeping in the trenches with them, kind of leading in his own philosophy that he said, serve to lead, what we call the servant leadership posture of leadership. But in the military, leading from the front, being in the theater, being at where it's happening, ground zero, and knowing the soldiers' problems, that's real-time problems, and trying to find solutions to that. So that's what is seen right from his days as a younger commander, up to when he became Chief of Army Staff. So it was not surprising that we saw someone that is energetic, someone that is fully involved, someone that is leading from the front. So I think it's his second nature, being an infantry officer, but also being someone that is really connected to the soldiers that he's leading.
Right. Okay, let me bring in Azam Chide. Honorable Azam Chide, you've been following the trend, and the reactions coming from across the country in respect to the death of the, former Chief of Army Staff. You've also seen some of the video footages that shown on the TV, during his lifetime, how he was embedded, in the whole, theater of operation and all of that. How do you receive, this tragic news of his death?
I feel very sad because we have very few officers within in the Nigerian army who are very smart, very tough when it comes to knowing what to do in the fields. It's unfortunate that we lost our commander-in-chief, in the army. It's unfortunate, but who can question God? We have to move on. The family, the wife, it's unfortunate. I mean, so when you get to this rank, I mean, why would they take you away? This is why we always tell ourselves, do what you can do now. Do what you can do now because you don't know tomorrow. So my condolences to the family, first of all, to the entire government of Nigeria, and the Chief of Defense Staff, my senior in secondary school, General Christopher Musa. We mourn. We've lost a fantastic commander, I can tell you.
Right. His death is coming at a time Nigeria is grappling, with the issue of security challenges, a number of theater operations across the country. He's lost at this point in time when his service is needed the most. Even though in the military they will tell you there won't be any vacuum. Already there is a replacement now. How do you think he will be missed? In the efforts to tackle the mirage of challenges affecting the country?
I don't have any doubts about the capacity of those in power right now. I can tell you, my early days as a cadet in Federal Government College, Sokoto, commander of the Cadet Corps, he has been a fantastic officer from second to. So we have the smartest soldiers in Nigeria. But what I can tell you is that the army will move on. His colleagues, and I'm sure that what he stands for is what they will take on. No one is going to deviate from what the Taoreed Lagbaja, the Nigerian army. I'm sure they will continue his legacies.
Right. Okay.
Obviously.
About some of these legacies, Commander, he was said to have, came up with very laudable initiative, and he was said to be concerned about, importantly, the welfare of the soldiers, and of course they are also capacity building, and he was also seen to be transformative in the area of bringing in the latest equipment, perhaps, that would aid them in dealing with this. What do you make up with some of those initiatives, he came on board with while in active service?
So I think it's important to understand what was his command philosophy. Immediately when a leader comes on board, everybody is trying to understand or to read that leader. What type of leader is he going to be? What are the priorities? Where is the focus going to be? And for him, he clearly, enumerated them to be that it's going to be all about leadership, operational effectiveness, and administration, which in this instance is about the soldier, and so on and so forth. So the belief was that you have to recruit right, you have to train, you have to equip, but most importantly, you have to ensure that the soldier that is behind that weapon is adequately catered for in terms of the administration, in terms of his welfare. And what a very, there are so many of them, but what for me was very, also very telling, was the fact that he emphasized what he called the home front.
Yeah.
Because however sophisticated the weaponry that a soldier has, the welfare and well-being of the soldier is the most important,
the driving
thing,
force,
yes.
perhaps.
Because if there is no will, the soldier does not have the will to fight. No matter what you bring for that soldier, he's not going to fight.
Yeah.
And if what improves or encourages the soldier to have that will is the belief and the realization that the home front is always taken care of.
Yes.
So, you know, this is issue of bringing initiatives that ensure that the family of the soldier is taken care of, whether he's alive, whether he's in the war front, or in very unfortunate incidences or circumstances when the soldier is demised.
Yeah.
So, and also in between that, ensuring that the soldier is adequately trained for what he is intended to do, and also equipping that soldier for that. And when the soldier is in deployment, this might seem a bit insignificant to people, but then it's very important that there is what is called rotation, that the soldier is able to connect after staying for some time
with the
theater. The soldier is being able to rotate back, either to be able to rest and recuperate, then go back and be re-inducted into the theater of operations. So most of his programs were those that were fashioned towards making sure that the soldier, here when I mean the soldier, that's both officers and men in the military, in the army, are taken proper care of in a way that they can give their all to the fight, because that is what is required of them. So those things, and being an infantry officer, a very excellent one for that matter, you can understand where this focus is coming from, because these are the people that stay with the soldiers right there in the trenches, and they know the problems. And so coming from those, knowing the problem of the soldier, of the average soldier, his programs or his philosophy was to ensure that as the chief of army staff, as the commander of these soldiers, there's one of the clips that is going around, and I am sure he meant it, where he said, "My line is open." I mean,
that's right. For feedback,
Exactly.
He said, if they have any issues, we can connect.
People might think, okay, well, how do you listen to? But as the topmost commander, there is that confidence that the soldier has that my commander is listening, my commander knows what is the problem, and my commander is doing something to ensure that I get the best. So you can imagine the zeal that brings, that commitment and the will to fight. So for me, that was what Lieutenant General Lagbaja exemplified. That is what he showed, and that's the type of leadership that he brought on board. There were so many of these
initiatives. There's this, initiatives along the improvement in allowances, the rations and all of that. That perhaps was also done to encourage.
Exactly. When he came, there were situations whereby you hear a lot of these problems through social media, because we live in a generation whereby even communication with the soldier between leadership and followership is key, is very important. You have soldiers between the ages of 18, 20, right from 18, that are in the front. They have a different perception of how the job should be. So it takes someone with a listening ear, someone that is forward-looking, progressive enough to be able to balance between the demand of the, will I call it the old soldiering jobs, and the Generation Z, if I'll call it that, that are actually in the fight, because they are the people carrying the fight to the enemy. So that gap, that was what
had to be bridged.
Yes, had to be bridged, and that was what Lagbaja, may he so rest in peace, breached. That's why you could see he was involved doing the symbolic press-ups and telling soldiers, charging the soldiers. For anybody that
and getting their commitment,
getting
their you ready, and all of that, things like that.
For the soldier, that is very, very important. Because when you see your commander, believing that your commander can go with you, and when he was GOC in Kaduna, he led these operations. Now, there is, you can imagine when you're either the general officer commanding or the chief of army staff, a general that is far up there, coming with you and saying, let's go. Right. Tell me what will happen to the average soldier, how he'll feel charged, and how the commitment that he's going to bring to that fight. That was what General Lagbaja
did. The fact that he is already, is an all-rounder, so to speak, is very much in tune with the system and how it operates. Perhaps coming up with this initiative, he must have experienced, some of the gaps in the operations. Okay, let me bring in Azam Chini again, but because there's a political angle to the whole thing, there has been concerns around the handling, of his ill health, and the back and forth between authorities and, of course, the media, especially the social media, around, the true nature of, the current state of the late Army Chief, Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Army Staff. So, what do you make up with that? How the whole thing was handled? Yes, agreed, he was away for a while, and then the military high authorities also mentioned that, yes, he is attending to his ill health, but then there has been some level of secrecy around the whole incident. Do you find that strange?
Well, from my relationship with the hierarchy of, they've handled it well. As don't just get up in the morning and tell the nation that the chief has fallen. I think they managed it well. He might have fallen ill suddenly, but I think the bottom line is that at the end of the day, the military came out clean, and told Nigerians, we've lost our chief of army staff. And you should also know that the lacuna that that might create might be why the secrecy is there. But at the same time, I will also, chip in this advice immediately to the army staff to look at his late colleague. The open communication he has with the junior officers on ground in the foots is a key factor he must emulate. And he must not go the usual route of coming in, okay, dislodge all these men comes on board, because we are planning for a Nigeria that will be stable. Lagbaja has found for these guys now to be able to command and control. Don't dismantle it immediately. Let us have a system that is there, not for a human. It's an advice. It's knowing the norms, let him allow, supervise it efficiently, just like his late colleague. That's my humble advice.
Right. Okay. You are a professional. I'm sure you wouldn't want to join issues with the political, but then there has been a lot of concerns. You know this very much. The politicization, if you like, the politics around everything. Some say, there has been a lot of underground lobby. There's a lot of attempts, to strategize and, perhaps take the necessary decisions that will lead to the replacement, so to speak, of the late COAS. And that played a significant role, or rather, that has taken a center stage around the conversation. People look at, some of the things that were done. Some say it is, alien to the military doctrines or operations, like the issue of acting, acting a chief of army staff, and all of that. So explain to Nigerians in layman's, terms, what is involved in this kind of circumstance.
So, when things happen, they create situations where, and they could be very unique. When the former chief of army staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim, had crashed, that was, would I call it, sudden? It just happened and so on. Then this illness, then this. But what is there is that the military, like it was said, is a very hierarchical organization. Now, where there might be confusion or the public is because there's what is called the seniority list.
Yeah.
The seniority list has the list of all officers of the Nigerian military with their date of seniority and rank.
Yeah.
Now it has the Chief of Army Staff if he is the most senior, or in this case, if the Chief of Defense Staff, who is a general and who is Army, he is likely to be the first #1 in that seniority list, followed by the Chief of Army Staff, who is then all other that are major generals on two things. On their service seniority on that rank of major general, their number, there's what everybody has a personnel number, and so the date okay, so seniority, that's their own seniority joining the Nigerian Defense Academy, the seniority on that rank, and the seniority based on number. Now, if you have, like, the acting Chief of Army Staff is a coursemate to to the late Chief of Army.
The 39 course.
Yes, they're all members of 39 course. Now, if you have, say, but because he was Chief of Army Staff, a Lieutenant General, he's automatically his senior. Now, the next person will be the person that is a Major General that has the highest number, that's personnel number, and has the highest seniority on that rank. So that's how it goes to the last officer that was just commissioned in the from the Nigerian Defense Academy just yesterday. Even that, when they have the same seniority, the same rank, then you follow the Army number. It's called the Army number, so you arrange them that. So usually, in situations like this, and this is where maybe people will think that there's the confusion a bit. Now there is that. There is, when you have a Chief of Army Staff, there is the appointment in the structure of the Nigerian Army or the Nigerian the Defense Headquarters or the Nigerian Air Force or any of the services. There is the Chief of Army Staff, who is at the top of the pyramid. Then there is the Chief of Policy and Plans Army. Then it goes up to the last person. Who are these? Then but then at the field also there are commanders, like the commander of the Training and Doctrine Command and General Officers Commanding.
The divisions.
Yes. So for administrative matters, and what has been the practice is that once the chief is not there, visiting or away from his headquarters, the Chief of Policy and Plans, Army,
just like it was done. I think he was acting in his absence.
Yes, so there is no really confusion, or there is no whatever. The only thing is that we have to know at the back of our mind that the appointment of who becomes Chief of Army Staff is the prerogative of the Commander-in-Chief. So for acting administrative purposes, the person that acts in the absence of Chief of Army Staff is the COPP, except if it is otherwise stated. But that is just the hierarchy based on that. So all this where I know kind of there
the concern really was how the emergence of the now acting Chief of Army Staff.
Remember that I said that the president has the prerogative to appoint anybody, whereas this is the issue. But the president has that prerogative. So, and nobody can take that away from the president. If he feels that, no, I want Mr. A. By the way, if you look at it logically, the acting Chief of Army Staff was the co-infantry, co-commander of the infantry.
Right.
Now, we have an insurgency that is going on. We have, like I had explained earlier on, a battle that is fought mainly, the preponderance of the people fighting that are the army, but the preponderance within the army is the infantry. Now, this is the co-commander. The role of the co-commander is to ensure that that corps, in this case the infantry, is organized in the way that it fights. So if you look at it in a way, that means the most person that supports the training initiative or the leadership on the training and so on, the operational effectiveness of the Chief of Army Staff is perhaps the infantry corps commander. So if the president sees that in that wisdom,
and perhaps maybe the fact that the late COAS also came from that same unit. I mean,
the core of the infantry, yes.
For instance. Perhaps, there's something strategic about it.
Yes, so there is that, but I mean, those are all things that are right. But let's not forget the fact that the commander-in-chief can appoint anybody.
Right. Okay, but then,
to anywhere.
again, there is also a concern. For instance, to pave way for the acting, chief of army staff, there must be, I mean, people have to pay for it. For instance, I think the practice is that whenever someone is appointed, a number of generals will have to go.
Okay. So now, in this case, locally, I mean, this is very strategic, and I commend the wisdom behind this, because in the real sense, nobody has to go.
Yeah, based on this arrangement.
Yes, because the acting chief of army staff, if he is confirmed to be chief of army staff, he's already a member of 39, because they are the most senior, right, in the army. Now, so who is going? The only person that will go is person that perhaps there's what is called age on rank, or someone that means if you have a particular, because the military has for each rank there's a number of years that you spend, and for each rank there is your own age, and so on. So the only people, so this is, I think, this is likely to be the most the smoothest transition, because these are cosmates. I don't know his army number. Maybe he might even have a higher army number than the late chief of army staff. But forget even army number. They are cosmates, so nobody is going anywhere based on, because this is if he's confirmed that he's confirmed as chief of army staff.
Right. So you think the issue around, because some insinuating that perhaps ethnic configuration or influence or consideration may have taken place, looking at.
Let's not even go there. Like I told you, the chief, the commander-in-chief has the prerogative to appoint whoever he feels that will. You remember the mandate, and so let's look at the bigger picture, the wider picture. Nigerians gave the commander-in-chief the mandate. Right. This is the mandate we want. There's ABC. One of it is to ensure that there is peace in the northern part of Nigeria and everywhere. Actually,
it's one of his key constitutional responsibilities.
Exactly, and that was one of the key cardinal points on which Mr. President campaigned. Now, Mr. President is given the latitude by that mandate to pick anyone that he feels is going to, I mean, of course, bearing all the person meeting some of the criteria and the rest. So he could pick anyone. He could say this one should continue and send him for confirmation to the Senate. He could decide to go lower and pick someone else, and so on. So it's entirely his prerogative, and I think we shouldn't
politicize. But Nigerians are already politicizing it. Let me get Azamchine. Azamchine, what do you make up with this, and how do you think it will affect, given all of those colorations that happened? And,
I'm so happy that I'm involved in this discussion, because I find out that a whole lot of well-trained are doing nothing today. It will amaze you that some of the most intelligent officers in the military around the world are Nigerians. I can name them for you. And most of age of 53, 54. And then you find out that when they retire, they are, because they're still strong, they still have a lot to give, but because of these military calculations, I advise the Senior Christopher, who is in charge now, Musa, to find a way of getting these people back. I know about 3 or 4 generals. Their CVs are the best in the world. I can name them for you. Christopher Tolagbe, Arinze Benebe. These are people who are still active and have the best brains. So the military, like the gentleman there, look at him, very, very smart and well-spoken. They need to go back to the military schools and imbibe this knowledge for us. They should not be wasting these officers that we've spent so much. We are in a democracy and we must speak the truth to power. They need to bring these people back and make sure that those knowledge are not wasted. I'm being very frank. because these people are young and still strong. The military should find for accepting them in the school, in the defense. They can as well help like road safety. Now we are planning to give road safety arms.
Right.
We should bring these people now to imbibe this knowledge on those set of people.
Right. If you get what he is saying, is it in line with perhaps the doctrine and practice?
Okay, so you see, the military is a subset of,
Yeah.
of a system.
Yeah.
So the military has the terms and conditions of service.
Yeah.
Just that first, that is guiding the federal civil service generally, where you have to attend either 35 years in service or your 60th birthday. Then you have to retire. In the military, in the past, because of the way the rank structure was, most generals that do not make service chief and so on have to retire at around 56, 50 or thereabout.
Yeah.
However, even though that is being changed, so you are going to have people that make 2-star are going to likely stay up to around 60 or thereabout, in line with what is happening in the federal civil service. But that 35 years is still there. So it's not a military thing per se, except if there is that alteration to ensure that it doesn't affect the military. But let's also even think about it. When a military is no longer active service, it doesn't mean that he doesn't contribute or she doesn't contribute to national development or national discourse. I give example of myself. When I retired in 2017, I retired when I was a member of directing staff. I was an instructor at the Armed Forces Command and Staff College. Now, after that, I went into protection of civilians, where the lot of my interaction was going back to the same military. And in fact, those were some of the times that I had close encounters with General Lagbaja, because this was a man that was interested. Nigerian military was being accused of human rights violations and so on and so forth. In this philosophy of training, civil military relations and so on, there was the feeling that those that were there know both sides, are more likely able to relate more and have. So I was engaged in that and so on.
I remember I was part of one of those courses,
Exactly.
That was spearheaded, that was facilitated by the 1 Division Nigerian Army then.
Exactly. So even when we retire, we're actually at the service of the military. We contribute in another different way, because remember that the military, if the military man is not fighting, he is training. Who provides that training? It's mostly retired military officers that provide us training, and mostly people that go out there to and so just to put it straight, it's not a waste. We still give back to the system, and we still feel part of that system.
Yeah, because that has been a lot of the issue has been in the conversation for quite some time now. People felt that, especially looking at the current situation in the country, there's need to involve some of this. But then let's go back to some of the philosophies, if you like, or policies of the COAS. Now that we have a new COAS, yes, everyone will come with his own kind of philosophy and how he look at things. But looking at some of the initiatives, like application of cutting-edge technology into the fight, late Lagbaja has taken it a notch higher.
Yes.
Talking about even intelligence, artificial intelligence, involvement, or and so on. How do you think this can? Because this is the end thing. It is not just about the boots on ground. It's about application of technology.
So, and I still go back to that. I think we're lucky that this is likely to be the least destructive transition that we ever have.
Right.
Because apart from the fact that they're cosmates, when you're cosmates, that means you've been exposed to virtually the same training for a long time. Training under the same environment, training under, right from the Defense Academy to all their primary military education and so on and so forth. So there is the likelihood that the thought, the perception and so on, of course there will be a few changes here and there. And even in the crafting of this command philosophy by the late Chief of Army Staff, you understand that it is not just one person that sits. he looks at the entirety of it and involve like minds. This, the acting COAS Lieutenant General Oluyede is an infantry officer, crack infantry officer. I am very sure and certain that he was involved in the crafting of this.
Right. So he will carry on with it.
Yes. So my advice, if I can give that advice, is that there will be slight changes. We can't, because style there is different, but there is a lot to continue with. It's given results. Soldiers are more energized and they feel more, the morale is high. Of course, it can go notches higher. And one of the things that he did was issue of unity of purpose, ensuring that there is unity of purpose first within the army, ensuring that this is what we want to contribute to the general welfare and well-being. That's the strategic objective of government. Right. This is what the army is going to contribute. So all of us have to synergize, or unity of purpose first within the army, but also synergy between the army and other sister services and other security agencies, and also things like technology and the rest. Like when you look at some of this, one of it, for example, the army aviation. This is something that
yes, I was actually commenting that.
Exactly.
Yeah, he felt that there's need to build that capability too.
Exactly.
Rather than just waiting. I mean, they should be able to complement.
Exactly. And this is something, I tell you, it's not something that started yesterday. It's been there, the fact that he was able to convince the political leadership, he was able to push and ensure that this started. It's something that is commendable. It's something that the person coming in should continue with that. 12 attack helicopters were ordered.
Yeah, sure, even though not all of them arrived.
Yes, exactly. With the 2 that have arrived and so on. So there's so much on this plate that there is no need to reinvent the plate again.
Yeah, perhaps continuity.
Yes. So what I will urge is that look at this command philosophy. Look at the issue of mutual trust that the former COAS wanted to evolve between officers and between officers and their men. Look at the issue of audacity. I love that because officers on the ground should be flexible to a certain level to respond to situation on the ground. It's not every situation that you have to go up, because by the time you go up and get the
time,
the situation will have changed and so on. So that audacity for officers to take
for instance what happened in Kaduna. I think it was largely as a result of that, the what do you call it, the mishap that happened. Interpretation of the communication and all of that.
So and again, issues like leadership by example. These are all things of philosophy that the former the late chief of army staff embodied, and I think these are things that soldiers look up to. The issue of the soldiers' welfare itself, and support for home front, sanctions and rewards. These are all part of the things that he said we need to do. Things that. So I honestly feel that the acting chief of army staff, if eventually confirmed, have a lot already on this plate, and this plate is deliciously served. So I don't really feel that
there's need for
discard.
Right. That has been an issue in Nigeria. Continuity. In most cases, you have fine, beautiful policies and ideologies, but then when you have change of command or transition, you find people changing, and then things get back to worse. Let me get your last line. Azomchine, as a Nigerian, what do you expect from the new acting, chief of army staff, now that he has taken the mantle? What would you suggest? How do you think he can rejig or reinvigorate, these various operations taking place across the country?
First of all, I want to congratulate him and wish him well. I might not agree with all the policies of the current government, but I'm sure that the Nigerian army is in good hands. I can tell you that, knowing who are those who are in charge. Christopher Musa had been one of those who imbibed discipline on us while we were growing up. As our dining hall captain, he was in charge of feeding us at Federal Government College, Sokoto. So he was one of the finest we had in school. So the Nigerian army is in safe hands. I wish them well. I I will advise the new COAS to work in synergy with the Chief of Defense Staff and his other colleagues. They should see Nigeria as a nation that they must unite no matter or whatever the differences are. The Nigerian Army has one of the finest officers in Africa. Sure about that because
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Ikenna Azomchine, for your perspectives on the platform tonight. We appreciate you. Right.
Thank you very much.
As we round up, Azomchine has raised, a very important issue, the issue of synergy. This transition in the army is coming at the time there is also a growing concern towards synergy among security agencies. Just recently, the Minister of Police Affairs did mention that there is no collaboration or minimal collaboration among the agencies, which is hindering the fight against these non-state actors. How do you think this current the acting COAS will consolidate on what has been built upon to ensure that there is effective synergy among the agencies?
So usually you find out that at the top there is a lot of synergy, there's a lot of
understanding,
camaraderie, and people understanding between themselves. I think it's as you go down the cadre or the structure, you find out there is this ego trip sets in, and people wanting to outshadow or shine, and so on and so on. But I think it's an issue of coordination, kind of who is really in charge of coordinating this. When the ball falls, then you find out that then everybody goes aside. And I would say that the Office of the National Security Advisor that has stepped in to do this coordination has been, it's not yet there, but there has been a lot of effort to ensure this
compared
synergy,
to what was happening
in the past. And among themselves also, the service commanders, and here you have to also give this to the Chief of Defense Staff, who seems to be able to bring the services together. That's the military now. Usually the problem is not slightly within the military, but that is been dismantled because we train together, we go on courses together, so there's this understanding. These are people that, if you look at the service chiefs, members of 39 Corps, they have been together since their days in the Defense Academy, so they know one another. They have been working together. It's usually when you're having a multi-agency, then you find out that there is this, who is actually in charge, or who is this. So, and that's where either the Minister of Defense has to step in to ensure that this, and also the National Security Advisor, when it's multi-agency involving all the agencies of the state, has to step in to provide that direction. And it's also very important, and I know that we are short of time, that some of these things, it's very important to clearly spell them out. So sometimes when there is so much confusion because everybody is speaking from somewhere, then it becomes that this synergy.
There shouldn't be any gaps, there should be a seamless.
It should be clearly spelled out. This is responsible for this, this is responsible, and this is where this person's authority starts, and this is where it ends.
Right. Thank you very much, retired Wing Commander Musa Salmanu, PhD, for giving us your perspective, and of course informed perspectives, on the platform tonight.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me.
And viewers, that's a wrap on today's edition of Daily Politics. Do join us tomorrow. We'll be back with another interesting topics and personalities. On behalf of the team, I'm Shafiu Suleiman, thanking you for being there.